And I have a lot of friends in Congress that constantly tell me I used your quote again, and sometimes say, I even quoted you, it said it was your quote, but a lot of, and I don't care if I come up with something somebody used, but the quote is, you don't have to pay people to hate you, they'll do it for free. And it's true. And the example I've given, since I was very small, growing up in elementary school in Mount Pleasant, I got picked on a lot. And I stood up for myself once with a football helmet in hand, and I was little, but I didn't get picked on again after that. But I know you cannot give a bully your lunch money and expect them to love you. You cannot do it. They not only do they not respect you, they have contempt. But and y'all have heard the story about the huge dog that always avoided the yard where the little dog was. And why is your dog? Is he afraid? No, but he knows if he goes through that yard, he's going to have to fight that little dog, and he will win. But he gets tired of all the cuts and scrapes, so he just doesn't want to fight anymore. You know, you may be small, but if you stand up for your territory and stand up for what's right, even people that are bigger than you eventually respect it. And right now, the United States just doesn't have the respect. We can do more, but not give money to the Muslim Brotherhood. And just a corollary to that, and I've been criticized for this, but it's true. This administration has members of the Muslim Brotherhood who advise them from the inner sanctum. And Imam Majid is president of the Islamic Society of North America. He is a Muslim brother, as two courts have found, the Dallas Federal Court and the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. The Islamic Society of North America and the Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE, are the two largest Muslim Brotherhood front organizations. And this president, CARE, for example, a couple of years ago, there was a 2-day seminar on radical Islam being taught at Langley, the intelligence agency, CIA headquarters. And CARE heard about it. They called the White House, and it was canceled immediately beforehand, and new regulations can't. And one of the guys who spent his career briefing military on radical Islam is banned from teaching people about radical Islam. These guys are professionals, they spent their lives doing it, and they don't even get to brief about it because of CARE's influence. And Imam Majid, he has been praised for the prayers he's given in leading the Iftar celebration, which is the end of Ramadan, at the White House under President Obama. He has been praised for the advice he gave President Obama on his speech that he gave right before Netanyahu was flying over a few years ago, if you remember, in May. And Imam Majid was there in the inner sanctum of the State Department when Obama gave that speech to the State Department, with Netanyahu coming and knowing that he was going to come talk to Obama. And that's when Obama talked about, yeah, everybody's agreed that we start with the pre-1967 borders. Well, that must have been what Imam Majid said, but that was certainly not what Israel understood. This Muslim Brotherhood influence has got to stop. And for those who... And you may remember there were 5 of us that signed 5 separate letters to 5 different departments in the federal government, and each one of the letters was specific to that department, and each one of those letters had incontrovertible facts in there, and we took grief for mentioning Huma Abedin, and I've learned so much more about her than I knew at the time. But what we put in there was factually accurate. Yes, her father died 20 years before, but he was a central player in the Muslim Brotherhood. Her mother had started the Muslim Sisterhood as the sisters to the Muslim Brotherhood, and she had other family members that were in the Muslim Brotherhood, and yet she is one of Hillary Clinton's closest advisors. That was just one of many facts, and that was only mentioned in the State Department letter. And I think Michelle and I had more to do with the content of those letters than any of the other 3, and she took most of the hits, but But people wanted to condemn us for calling him a terrorist. We never did that. We just asked each Inspector General to please investigate the extent of Muslim Brotherhood influence in your department. And we gave examples that we knew there was some influence. What's the extent? There was nothing wrong with any of those 5 letters, and Michelle and I still stand by them. And as time goes on, we're going to be proved more and more accurate.
Thank you. Are there any pending impeachment proceedings against President Obama? If so, where do they stand?
The word impeachment's been talked about some. There are no pending impeachment proceedings. And I know some of my friends on the radio have talked about it. And it's a tough issue. The way I look at it, you know the Senate would never agree to remove, they wouldn't remove a president that was caught perjuring himself before a court. And, you know, president's credibility is supposedly pretty important. It wasn't because of an affair. It was because of the perjury. And he was disbarred for it. But the Senate would not agree to remove him from office. And I'm telling you, the Senate will never agree to remove this president from office. And if you tried any type of impeachment proceedings, then it would suck all the air out of Washington. It would take everybody's energy. It would be everybody's focus. In the meantime, Obamacare is fully implemented. You end up having more and more people with executive orders getting you know, legal status and amnesty in this country. So we can, there's just not enough energy to focus on more than a few really critical issues. And if one of them is impeachment, that you know ultimately is not going to happen for removal of office, and probably not even because of the current leadership, it wouldn't even get very far. I'm spending my time going after Obamacare, which I know will hurt people's health care, their length of life, their quality of life. I'm working on making sure people respect and adhere to the law, whether it's immigration or other things. They're just so much, we need to get to the bottom of what happened in Benghazi so that we make sure it doesn't keep happening. We had explosions at 2 embassies and people killed in the 90s, in 98, I guess, under President Clinton. We have got so much we need to get to the bottom of. And another big issue is the IRS. And again, I'd like to go to a flat tax. I know there's some that think fair tax is the way to go. I don't think there'll ever be enough energy to get to fair tax. And I think a flat tax is easier to sell. My concern about a flat tax was that I want to get rid of the IRS, and I wasn't sure if we could do it. Arthur Laffer tells me he's got the 1, 2, 3s on exactly how you do it. You don't have to have an IRS. You have a small auditing agency. He asked if I would set up a meeting, which I'm setting up. Dave Camp, the chairman of House Ways and Means, has agreed to be part of the meeting. A number of key players on taxes are willing to be at the meeting, and to talk about how we could get to a flat tax and get rid of the IRS. But I'm telling you, if we start talking about impeachment, all of those things probably don't ever happen. The IRS continues to be weaponized. They have not stopped what they were doing. I just want to spend my time on the key issues that may bring us to a country I don't recognize at all, instead of spending time on something that's not going to get to the finish line.
Thank you. We hear scandals where money is squandered on lavish parties, vacations, conferences, personal islands, etc. If the House holds the purse strings, why are the heads of the different government departments not required to submit itemized budgets where they can be scrutinized before funds are allocated?
It's a great question, and it's one that has produced great frustration in me. Earmarks were being abused, badly. And John Murtha, rest his soul, was one of the worst abusers of earmarks, but there were people in both sides of the aisle that had abused earmarks. But the truth is, since Congress has the purse strings, Congress ought to be the one to itemize what money will go for. But, and I totally supported a temporary moratorium on earmarks until we reform the process. And I know I don't know of anybody in Gregg County that's gotten mad at me, but I know there are people in other counties who have gotten mad because I would not push for an earmark for a specific company. And I don't intend to ever do that. But if it's a government function and it's a enumerated power, and believe it or not, like it or not, it's in the Constitution, the federal government is to post roads. So I don't have a problem building interstate highways. It says in the Constitution, you'll post roads. And so I don't have a problem saying we need an Interstate 69 that runs, you know, up through Texas. I don't consider that an earmark. But once we temporarily had the moratorium on earmarks, both sides have gotten to where if there is any specificity in our